valuable insights that will undoubtedly enhance our scholarly pursuits. At this juncture, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Florence John, our esteemed resource person for the today's section. Now, I am inviting Ms. Yogita of 2PA to introduce our resource person.
A warm evening to one and all present here. On behalf of Department of Commerce at SRM IST, Faculty of Science and Humanities, I welcome you all to the second day of Virtual Faculty Development Program. It's time to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Florence John Ma'am, Associate Professor and a Research Supervisor, PG and Research Department of Commerce, Madras Christian College. Ma'am is specialized in area of finance, entrepreneurship, research methodology. Ma'am started her career at SD College, moved to Madras Christian College. Ma'am guided 7 scholars and guiding 4 scholars currently. In addition to this, ma'am have significant research contributions. I welcome you, ma'am. I would like to welcome all the dedicated participants, each one of you present here, as we embark on transformative journey over the upcoming days, immersed in building up the insights on qualitative and quantitative aspects of research. In these moments together, we are not just attendees, we are explorers, collaborators, and pioneers in the field of research. More than a gathering, it's a convergence of mind, a celebration of intellectual curiosity, and a platform for the exchange of profound insights. As we stand at the threshold of this week long exploration, let us acknowledge the significance of shared pursuit. The collaboration of qualitative and quantitative methodologies hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of the complex world. Today, we stand at the intersection of narrative, ready to unravel and lie beneath the surface. Our journey begins with the establishment of solid foundation, understanding the essence of both qualitative and quantitative research. We will venture into the qualitative realms, appreciating the power of stories, experience, and the human narrative. In the following days, we will explore the delicate balance between the approaches, recognizing the strength that arises from their collaboration. As we progress through the week, take a moment to reflect on the insights gained, what we have discovered about the dynamic interplay between qualitative depth and quantitative precision. Thank you.
Thank you, Yogita. Here the section is hand over to Dr. Florence Mann. Ma'am, the platform is yours.
Thank you. Respected Head of the Department, Dr. S. Tamlesi, and other faculty members and the participants of this faculty development program. Let me thank the organizers for inviting me to deliver a talk on the second day of this faculty development program. My special thanks to the HOD of Commerce and also to Dr. J. Solomon Tandurai and the Dean and Associate Dean of FHS SRM. Thank you, Madam. Today's topic is on how to identify the research gap. Can I share the screen?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
So the topic for today is how to identify a research gap. The basic problem with the researchers is that they struggle hard to find a topic of their interest. I think in my experience, I can say that that is the most difficult part of any research, identifying a right topic. The topic should be very innovative, new. At the end of a study, the researcher should be capable of contributing something new to the literature, to the society, and to the organization. Sometimes if a topic is of public interest, it should also contribute towards public. And it's a very difficult task. And today's session, I hope, will throw some light on how to identify the research topic. So for today's session, I will be touching on what is research gap, why it is necessary to identify the research gap, and what are the different ways of identifying a research gap, how to identify it, and the various types of research gaps, and then a concluding remark on that topic. When we look at researchers, there are different types of researchers are there. If you take a demographic profile of the researcher from the point of view of age, we have young researchers and also people of older age. The young researchers are normally digital natives because they have grown up under the ubiquitous influence of internet and modern information technologies. And they are natives because they can think, learn, and understand the world around them differently with the use of modern technology. And the digital natives have a greater aptitude towards technology compared to the older generations, because older generations are termed as digital immigrants. For example, if you take myself, when I was born, I wasn't born with the information technology or modern technology. Like but I could adapt to the new technology. So I'm a digital immigrant. So people of older age are of digital immigrants. And both of us, both natives and immigrants, use the technology for various purposes. And digital natives have every information at their fingertips. It's very easy to extract the information. You can say, ask Alexa, ask Siri to say something, it will say. Now you have a chat GPT. So whatever under the earth you want to write, you need not even sit and spend your time and energy. The technology will provide. But one thing is, there is a difficulty in, or there is a lack of problem solving skills, and to apply the knowledge in research, which is essential to carry out an innovative research. The researchers are expected to read a lot, interpret what they have read, and analyze the new information. And if they're not able to get any new idea, they have to start again. The volume of information the researcher can comprehend only will help them to identify a right research topic. There should be a sustained focus on this topic. There is a sustained focus on challenging this task. Only this will enable a researcher to come out with an innovative research. Otherwise, the research will be of not much of use, and it may not contribute much to either to the literature or to the society. So what is this research gap? The research gap is one which has not been identified, a topic or an idea, or it may be a concept. Anything which has not been studied, or which has been not studied to the extent that it has to be, or any research problem which has not been answered properly, or there is a new concept which has emerged and it has to be explored, but it has not been explored yet sufficiently. It means there is a research gap. And is it necessary to identify the gap? Yes, it's very much essential for a researcher before they start their research actively to identify the gap in the area of their interest. I remember when I started guiding my scholars, they must have had a tough time. I don't know. I made them to spend majority of their first part of the year in doing their review. Because only when they read and read, keep on reading, it is possible to get some idea of what is not explored properly, what is a new idea. So it is necessary, it is essential for a researcher to identify the gap, which will help why the study is. That is the motivation behind the study. What is the problem needs to be studied? Is the problem essential to be explored? Why the problem is important to be explored? And what kind of a new information which we do not know, which can be explored, can be identified through various means. So if these things has to be carried out, it is essential to identify the research gap. There are different ways of identifying the research gap. In the present slide, you can see 5 different ways of identifying a research gap. I'll be explaining briefly about each of these ways of exploring it. First one is examining the current affairs. I said read. Only when we read, we know what is happening at present. This is one of the source of identifying a research gap, because any current information will help the researcher to carry out a research in an innovative manner. It can be either a political issue or a social issue, or it may be a technological aspect or economical aspect. Anything of the interest of the researcher can be a current affair. I placed here one of the example of a current affair, because a lot of talk has been happening about artificial intelligence. I just placed before you 2 statistical information about a use of AI technology. The global AI market size is expected to grow by 37% every year from this year 23 to 30. And another statistic says over 40% of business leaders report increased productivity through AI automation. It means for any businesses, adopting AI solution is essential. Only then they can have a competitive edge over their competitors. So this is a current information, current affair, which is based on technological development. What it has to do with the research. Since AI technology and application of AI technology in various businesses is an emerging area, not much of studies have been carried out. It's a new area. So the researcher can find new things and can get new ideas, which has not been tried by the previous researchers. So for example, I put one of the gap can be, I mentioned one of the statistics says 40% of business leaders report increased productivity. When will productivity increase? Only when the cost is less and efficiency increases. So if we say, if a researcher says, our AI-powered virtual assistant can help in increasing efficiency and save cost, how do we prove or disprove it? Only through research. So this is one of the example of technological aspect, which is of recent origin for a researcher to identify a gap. So any current affair, I can give you a political and social peer issue. You can see in this slide. One is a social issue where social unrest. I put 2 slides here. One is with regard to social unrest, beginning and at the end of, started with the 2010 and extended towards 2020. A lot of data has been collected, and the study can be carried out because social unrest, it's a civil order, it is a social issue. it will definitely have an implication in the country's economy or a particular sector. So this social unrest can be taken as one of the current information, social issue can be taken as a research gap. Similarly, economical issue also I put. GDP, if you see the graph here, due to an unrest, GDP is not improving. So it is an impact of social unrest in the GDP of a particular country. So what is the relationship between these two aspects can also be studied. So like this, we can go on and on about this since we don't have much time. Let me move on to the next one. So, yeah. The second one is through focus group. I hope you all would have heard about the focus group, especially in a qualitative research. This methodology is identified or used to identify the research gap. So focus group is nothing but people will come together from a similar background or with a similar experience to talk about a particular topic. So only through interaction, it is possible for a researcher to know about the perception, the beliefs, or certain ideas or problems, whatever it is about a particular topic under discussion. People with different experiences and perspectives will contribute different information, which will give an insight for the researcher. So this will help the researcher to have an in-depth understanding of certain social issues. So once a researcher is confident of the understanding of certain social issues, definitely they can explore the potential, whether there is a possibility to carry out the research in this area. It will definitely help in generating new ideas. If you take a marketing problem, lot of evolution has taken place in marketing, from a traditional marketing to digital marketing. So how new ideas, generating new ideas for bringing out new products can be discussed through focus group. Understanding of marketplace, how people think and behave in the market. Only the marketers who have experience will know. So a researcher, while having a discussion with the people with that background or experience, will know more, will get a better insight about how people think and behave so that the behavioral study can be carried out. Similarly, advertising teams will help in developing marketing, better marketing teams by the researcher, which will definitely be of help to the organization. Evaluating a new product concept or use of prototype. So focus group discussions will help. I've just given an example in the area of marketing. It can be carried out in any area of your interest. And it is not a substitute for a quantitative research, even if a researcher would like to carry on a quantitative research to gain some insight about certain issues, to identify a proper gap in the study. This use of focus group will help the researcher to identify the same. Then the third one is reflecting on our experiences. We go through a lot of experiences. You would have learned a lot, you would have read a lot, or you would have experienced a lot. I can say one of the this is a paper, State of Gender Inequality in India. It has been done by Smanajit Singh in 2016. This is one of the examples for reflecting on our experiences as a source of identifying a gap. For example, we have read a lot about gender inequality. There are a lot of restrictions based on gender in many industries. despite of gender equality laws and regulations, male continue to dominate India's business economic ecosystem. Most women-led businesses operate in low revenue sectors, whereas men control more profitable sectors such as construction and manufacturing and so on. Now only that restriction has been removed through law and other things. So what we see in the society is a reflection of the experiences. So the state of gender inequality in India, a study has been carried out. And based on this study, the researcher has found out that there is a lack of gender equality. Women have limited access to resources and opportunities. So this is one of the things which we can say, one of the example of the reflecting on experiences. Similarly, there is another study which has been carried out. This is also with regard to glass ceiling. There are certain areas where women are not allowed to be there, especially in the board of directors. Now only the women are allowed to certain industries, the glass ceiling has been removed. So in spite of various laws in place in India, still restrictions are there. So you can also go through papers like this to identify what is a research gap. So reflecting on our experiences in the society is one way of doing it. There are a lot of existing theories or research which will help the researcher to identify. So this is one of the annotated model, Taylorism and scientific management model. It is still relevant today. In spite of a lot of technological changes has taken place, evolution has taken place, that theory has been applied in a different manner. It indicates how a qualifying statement and identification of a problem can be done through the theory. Even in the modern context, how this theory of scientific management and Taylorism can be applied in research, can be explored. This is one of the theory I'm sharing. A lot of theories are there. The researcher can look into the theory and how the theory can be applied in the present context can be explored by the researcher. And the last way of identifying a research gap is through the review of literature. So review of literature is an essential part in identifying a research gap. So what is review of literature? All of you would have known. And review of literature, when a person carries out, first the researcher need to be organized. And I hope you're able to see the screen. These are the certain questions the researcher need to ask. What is the scope of a review of literature? Which type of publication the researcher is going to use? How good the information the researcher is able to get through the review? Whether the researcher has cited and discussed studies contrary to the perspective of the researcher. Is the problem clearly defined or not? What is the scope of the research? All these things can be identified only if the researcher carries out a review of literature. So definitely review of literature will help the researcher to identify the research gap. So 5 ways of identifying a research gap I have shared with you. Let me move on with the review of literature, because most of the social science researchers, we concentrate on review of literature for identifying a research gap. It is a very popular way of identifying it, most used way of identifying it. So how to identify a research gap? Through the review or through any of the other methods I've cited. Maybe existing theories. If you do not have any knowledge of existing theories, researcher needs to read books relating to that theory or articles of that theory. So any topic of the interest of a researcher, the researcher has to spend a time in reading, read meta-analysis paper. I hope you know what is meta-analysis, where the various research papers would have been analyzed together so that when you see a meta-analysis paper, you can even get in one paper, the researcher can get the opinion of more than 100 researchers also. So it's easy for a researcher to identify the research gap through that way. Or any digital tools can be used. Nowadays, a lot of digital tools are there so that will save time and you can have a wider coverage of the information also. You can use websites like Essential Science Indicator, Elsevier Science Direct, Web of Sciences to identify the most cited papers in the area of your interest. Your interest area may be finance or marketing or HR, whatever may be your area of interest, you can use these sites because if the paper is most cited, it means there is something interesting in there, something more to be explored. So that should create and arouse an interest in the minds of the researcher to read more. So this is how a researcher can identify the research topic. I'm given one example of a literature search. This is the title of a paper is Advances in Social Media Research, Past, Present, and Future, which has been carried out and published in online during 6th November 2017. We are the authors. And if you want, I'll just click on it to have a look at the paper. So this work has been carried out. And this is about advances, how the social media research was in the past, in the present, and in the future. So why I've used this as an example for that is, through this paper, in this paper, the researcher has showed various ways of identifying a research gap. There are two ways of analyzing it. One is keyword-based search, using either a technology or using keyword search alone, or a manual search and analysis. So what these authors have done is, they have downloaded the relevant abstracts. Relevant abstracts means, in this case, with regard to social media research, from the Web of Science database. Various abstracts they have downloaded through keyword search. And it can also be done through manual. First, let's see about a keyword search. So I put it in the box here. These are the keywords which the researchers have used. Twitter network, because it's about advanced social media in the present, past, and in the future. So what they have done in a keyword analysis, I told you, as I mentioned, the relevant abstracts were downloaded from Web of Science. Actually, they have downloaded nearly 13,000 and odd abstracts. And the analysis of those abstracts were carried out through this keyword-based search. These are I put the keywords. The description is Twitter blogging. So the keywords are there in the first column. Facebook users also is one of the social media. So friends, depression, self-esteem, social relationship, all these keywords which are used in the articles are identified and they are grouped together. So they have been described in 5 different heads. Twitter blogging insights, Facebook as a medium for addressing emotion, social media marketing, social media as an influencer, social media for pedagogy and health practices. So 5 clusters the researchers are able to identify through keyword search. So any researcher, if you are interested in doing a real innovative way of doing research, through keyword search analysis, you can identify the keywords by downloading the abstract from any of the website. Here in this example, it's from a Web of Science database. It has been downloaded. And analysis of this record has been carried out by the authors in 2 steps. They performed a co-citation analysis of the first author to get these keywords, and they have described it. This is a first method of, I told you there are 2 methods, keyword-based search and analysis. through keyword-based search analysis. They have created a 5 clusters and this paper has been written. Second one is manual search analysis. The relevant articles were identified first by the researcher and it has been downloaded. It is related to social media research. It is manually it has been done. And they used certain social media keywords in a literature to avoid any overlapping of papers. And they also have collected information. The articles reviewed manually in a manual search analysis. They have taken from various websites. Information system journal they have used. They have used information system research, Journal of Association for Information System. So if it is going to be done manually, it has to be done by going through each of these websites. When it is done through keyword search analysis, it was downloaded through Web of Science database. Here in a manual, the first literature search resulted in 181 articles. Then they wanted to eliminate irrelevant articles. Then finally, they have used 132 articles which are pertinent to the interest of their research, which is a social media. So any of you, if you are interested, you can also use this method of getting information either through keyword search analysis or through manual search and analysis to identify the research gap. So the relevant articles identified will help the researcher to identify an appropriate gap so that they can proceed with your studies. And there are different types of gaps. So long we have discussed about what is a gap, why is it necessary to identify a gap we have seen. And we also have discussed about the 5 different ways of identifying a research gap and how in a review of literature, keyword-based search analysis and manual search and analysis would help the researcher to identify the research gap also I've touched upon. Let me now move on to the different types of gaps. There are different types of gaps. I'm explaining here in this session due to time constraint, 4 major gaps. I placed before in this slide the names of those gaps: contextual gap, methodological gap, disagreement or evidence gap, classical literature gap. The gap can be due to any reason. Based on the reason only, it has been named, right? The first gap is a contextual gap. It's a context. And this contextual gap, for a new researcher, it is a very popular option. It is very easy to do a research. So any new researcher can use this type of gap to carry out a research in the area of their interest. So contextual gap can be either due to population or due to geographical area, or it may be due to time period. So any context, right? So if we take a population, I hope you all know how do we define a population. So the population for the study, if you would like to do a study on a marketing of certain baby products, the population is that number of people who use baby products, right? It can be either in India or outside India. So if a population for a particular study has been carried out in India, a similar study can be carried out in any other Asian country, because the behavior of the population in another Asian country, or it may be in a European nation, or it may be in Western countries. It is a population gap. It is easy. That's why I said only beginners can use it. A similar study in a different geographical location or for a particular different population, it can be carried out, right? That is a population gap. A geographical area also. So if any study has been carried out in Chennai city, similar study can be carried out in any of the metropolitan cities of India, or it can be outside the country also, or a region. Same way, the time period. If an earlier study has been carried out between 90 and 2000 or 2000 to 2010, similar research problem can be studied after 2010. That's a time period. It is a contextual gap. It is very easy for a researcher, new researcher, to identify a gap, because definitely it will produce a different result, because it's going to be a different set of population, or it is going to be a different geographical location, or maybe a different time frame period considered for a study. The study would have been done decades ago. Any marketing study they done decades ago, if it is a psychological behavior, consumer behavior, 2 decades ago, the consumer behavior definitely would have been different from what we see now. So definitely the new thing will emerge out of a study. But for an experienced researcher, I don't recommend this contextual gap. But I encourage new researchers can try out this when you write papers and other things, to gain more insight into this and to gain a better idea of how to carry out the research. This contextual gap will be of greater use. Let me give one of the examples for this contextual gap. In 1999, Stephen and Mr. Barron have carried out a study on a street youth and substance use, the role of background, street lifestyle, and economic factors. This is a topic. So I have taken this topic and I just went through the paper. Here, what I found is the researcher has examined the relationship between drug and alcohol use and the street life experiences. They have focused on the role of homelessness, the influence of peer members on the street, criminal behavior, poverty, unemployment in influencing drug and alcohol use. And this study was carried out in the city in Canada, country Canada, in a city in Alberta. The Edmonton is in a city in Alberta in Canada. The data were collected from that particular place through a structured interview. And the interview was carried out among 200 male youth with an average age of 19 years. I don't know, how do we identify a contextual gap in this? I told you it can be a different time frame. The study was carried out in 1999. Now, if you see, the use of substances are at the increase. Not only male are subject to use of these substances, even female youth, or even children, even people below the age of 19 years. So anyone who would like to do on the same topic, if contextual gap you would like to use for the similar topic, it can be, instead of doing it in Canada, it can be carried out even in India. Instead of a city in Alberta, it can be in a city in India, in Tamil Nadu, Chennai. Or even if you would like to carry out in Canada in the same city, a different time frame. Male only have been considered for the study. Female youth can also be studied, or different age group can also be taken, because the use of drug is now at large. Even children are under the use of substance. So how it has an influence on the economic factors and why they use the drugs and other things, how they are all involved in the criminal activities, how it affects the culture of a society through the use of drug, can be studied newly by any new researcher. This is one of, like this, you can take any already studied research paper and identify what is a contextual gap. Is there a similar problem prevalent in our country, in a particular city where you live? So that a similar study can be, definitely it will yield a different result. So that is one of the way of identifying a contextual gap, is one type of a gap. And second type of a gap is a methodological gap. The methodological gap is a missing gap of knowledge on a more appropriate underlying method, which can be used in research instead of the previously used one. So existing study would have been carried out with one particular methodology. With a different methodology, a study can be carried out. So if you take a present study, examine the issues with the research methodology. So as the name implies, the name of this gap is a methodological gap. As the name implies, the gap emerges as a result of research methodology or research design of existing studies, the previous studies. With this approach, the researcher can identify certain things based on the researcher's perception and can identify some gap, either in the stages of research and a new or an appropriate method of research can be applied by the researcher. That is a methodological gap. As you all know, there are different stages of research. This is, I put in a tabular column, the different stages. These stages only contributes towards methodological research gap. They are the sources of methodological research gap. For example, if you take a research problem, 5 sources, research, these are the 5 stages in research: identifying a research problem, optimization, sampling, data collection, and data analysis. If you take a research problem, it is a research design. It can be a descriptive type, exploratory, experimental, analytical, or diagnostic, anything. If you take organization, types of measurement can be any of the scales. Sampling can be any type of sampling the researcher would have used. The method of data collection can be according to the perception of the researcher of the earlier study. They might have used either primary or secondary, or would have used both. Analysis also, they would have used a factor analysis or any of the analysis I put here. So if you would like to do a research in this area, in the same topic, a methodological gap can be identified. Maybe you can feel as a new researcher, you might have a different perception. You can say, instead of doing descriptive study, if experimental study has been carried out for this particular topic, it would have yielded a better result. Then there is a gap. The same topic can be carried out with a different research design or with a different measurement. Or if you feel that they have used convenience sampling, so the outcome of a data is right, and you feel that it should be a stratified sampling or a simple random sampling, by changing the method of sampling, the new research can be carried out. Similarly, with the data collection and data analysis used, because definitely the results will be different. The outcome of the study will also be different. I've placed before you 2 examples to help you to understand this methodology gap. One of the examples is study on relationship between employee compensation and employee performance of IT employees in Chennai city. The existing study or the previous study, the researcher has used a convenience sampling method. But you feel as a researcher, a stratified sampling is better to have a wider coverage of area or to have a appropriate representation of, if you take a Chennai can be stratified into different regions: South Chennai, Central Chennai, North Chennai, East, West Chennai. It is a strata. It means each of the strata would have a representation in the study. In a convenience sampling, it may not be possible. Most of the data would have been conveniently collected from one of the region. It means the population would not have represented properly. It means the results would also have been different. So you feel it is appropriate to use a stratified sampling instead of convenience sampling on the same topic. And you feel that the method of collection used is a primary data by the previous researcher. And if you feel that is not a right way of collecting a data, it should be a secondary data, because employee compensation. If I'm an employee, how do you prove as a researcher that I have provided a right information about my performance or about my compensation? I would have given wrong information to the researcher. So if you feel that You could have collected that information from the employer. It is a secondary data. You would have got a more authentic information, so the study would have been more accurate. So this is one of the example of a methodological gap. Similarly, another example, factors that influence purchase intention in social commerce. In the present study, you find only 5 attributes are considered: economy, necessity, reliability, interaction, and sales promotion. And all these factors have an influence in the purchase intention. You feel that you would like to add few more new factors have emerged, like customer rating, how the effect of social media, visual attraction, brand consciousness, all not included there in the previous research. So these new factors can be included, right? It is a methodological gap. The researcher has identified, and now that gap can be used for carrying out the further research in the same area or a similar topic. Let me move on to the third type of gap. It is a disagreement gap or an evidence gap. We can also, why it is a disagreement? Because there are contradictory findings of the existing research. There is a contrast view expressed by 2 different researchers. There is a gap. Why few researchers are giving this kind of output, while the few other researchers are giving an entirely contradictory findings? Why? The researcher can explore. And researcher can disagree. You can disagree with for many reasons. The earlier findings are present findings. So if there is a mismatch between methodologies or any generic features of the practice followed, or if there is lack of consensus between scientific publications cited by the authors, or if there is a disagreement over the data or a methodology, then there is a disagreement gap. Or you feel that the interpretation has not been, the results have not been interpreted properly, then there is a disagreement or evidence gap. Lack of consensus. That is what here it refers to. So here when a researcher has to carry out, if there is only 5% variation or 10% variation between 2 groups of studies, we cannot say it is a disagreement gap and you cannot carry out the research in that area. There should be a relatively higher percentage of disagreement in the scientific opinion provided in the earlier research. Only then you can say there is a mismatch, there is a disagreement, or there is a evidence gap. And that gap can be either used by the new researcher to carry out the work. So I've placed here before you 2 examples of this disagreement. I don't know whether how far you're all used to reading. If you have read about use of coffee, you would have confused a lot. Nowadays, people are writing a lot about eating eggs. I don't know whether you have read about it. Few articles would say eating egg every day is good. Now there are few other researchers are coming out with negative impact of having eggs in the diet every day. So similarly with the coffee, a lot of studies have been carried out. Few of the studies say that coffee does cause cancer, and few of the studies says does not cause cancer. So I've taken one example of this paper. Based on this, you can understand coffee consumption versus cancer risk. So here in this paper, the impact of consumption of coffee, they have identified, and they have believed it is associated with adverse effects, many cardiovascular problems. But there are also papers which gives a beneficial effect of coffee intake. So I'm reading about the consumption of coffee or consumption of egg, as I mentioned, or use of certain drugs. So how do we get? It's a conflicting opinion. There is a gap. The researcher can carry out, because there is a lot of confusion, disagreement. So a new research, a fresh research can be carried out. Similarly, with the GST has been introduced in India a few years back. There is a lot of study on the impact of GST. which gives a conflicting opinion. I have taken two papers, one with the positive impact and another one with the negative impact. So here, this paper carried out, done by Dr. Namita in 2018. She has given very positive opinion about, if you read the full text, you will see how the introduction of GST has helped the society in indirect tax reformation. And she has mentioned that it helps India for its economic growth. And most part of the study concentrates on the positive impact in different sectors. But when I looked into this study, it's a negative impact on GST on Indian economy. If you see, this lot of negative impacts have been mentioned here in the study. The inflation rate in India, they are not able to contain GST impact of it on poor people. So all negative, high tax rate, and it's an unemployment rate. All those things are negative. So I shared two articles on GST, impact of GST on Indian economy. One gives a positive and another gives a negative. Which one is right? You can explore. You can explore by either collecting a different data or different kind of data to find out the real impact. Definitely the outcome of a result will be a very innovative one. It will help the researcher to come out with a new idea, new information, which will be of great help to the Indian economy. That's the third type. And the fourth type of research is we call it as a classic literature gap. Classic literature, as the name itself implies, when a new concept or new phenomena are to be studied, which has not been studied earlier. As I mentioned in the introductory part about the use of AI technology, machine learning, data analysis, big data analysis, all those things are there. That is a classic literature, where new concept, a new phenomena has emerged and you would like to study, we term it as a classic literature. And it gives a lot of research opportunities at present. But what you have to do is you have to get a lot of literature before you confidently move forward with this classic topics. You should not get stuck in between. I remember when I took my research topic on risk management practices, when I wanted to do research, I wanted to do on risk management practices in financial innovation. I wanted to be very innovative. My guide said, don't try to take a risk, madam, by taking this topic. I don't know anything about risk management. I said, no problem, sir. I will manage. Then when I started exploring the literature, I could get a lot of literature. Those days, the technology was not available, but still I went to library after library, gathered a huge amount of literature. But when I went to the financial institutions to talk to people about implementation part of it, every chief of the financial institution said, please don't study on this topic. It is in a implementation stage now only. You will not be able to do a proper research work on that. I almost wasted 7-8 months in exploring that. So we need to be very cautious, trying to be very innovative. The time also is essential for a researcher. So you can explore only if it is possible in a classic literature gap can be used as a study. So I've given few examples here in a classic because of COVID-19, medical technology have been and Internet of Medical Things have emerged, studies can be carried out. AI has transformed, the fintech has come. You can study, chatbots have been used both by education institutions and financial institutions. How AI-based anti-money laundering solutions are there. Like this, you can, lot of things are there in a classic where it's possible for a researcher to carry out the new research. These are the few examples I've placed before you. So let me conclude. The research gap, I hope you have followed and you agree that it is a center of any research. It is very crucial for a researcher to do a identify a research gap. So any lack of information will not help the researcher to identify a appropriate research gap in the area of their interest. So I encourage all the researchers here who have joined in this faculty development program to use the sources which I mentioned here. And you can also use the sources which I have not mentioned here. And there are many other gaps also. Only if you know the type of a gap, it can be more focused. And you can prioritize the gap, identify what is your objective and what you would like to do, what is a motive, what is a time frame. Then with all, because there's a lot of constraint even for a researcher. So keeping all this keeping in mind, when a researcher carries out the process of identifying a gap, it will definitely lead the researcher to a innovative research, and you will definitely be appreciated, and you will also enjoy doing research. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you, ma'am, for a wonderful session. So the session which ma'am provides us helps a lot for the participants since this identification of research gap is a little much task for everyone. So by this section, I think a clear-cut information was received. Ma'am, is it convenient for you to conduct the doubt clarification now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so participants, it's time for you to unmute the audio and ask your queries to the resource person.
Any questions from the participant side?
Participants, you can unmute the audio and ask your doubts to ma'am directly.
So I have a query. Can I ask?
Sure.
Yes,
ma'am.
yes.
Yeah. Good evening, ma'am. The session was really very interesting, especially with regard to research gap. Ma'am, my query is when we are trying to review the thesis, PhD thesis, which are the key areas that we have to take into consideration to identify the research gap, madam?
Thesis, when you, as a source for identifying a gap, the scope for further research. Every
Okay.
research will have at least half a page of information relating to scope for research. There are certain words, suggestions for further research they would have given. Or a researcher would have used the words like, it is important to address this issue. In the concluding chapter, they would have mentioned. A further clarification can be done by the, or if all such terminologies are used in the research, you can take those terminologies and find out whether there is any gap in that.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Participants, is there anyone interested to clarify your doubts? You can directly ask to ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. I hope
Yeah,
I'm
good evening.
audible. Yeah. Ma'am, thank you for the session. It was really a very great one for us, especially to find out the research gap. Ma'am, my question is, when we talk about the gap, say for example, the methodological gap which we were talking about, now is there any minimum number of reviews which we have to consider to talk? Because if I'm saying that I have found or I have I've been my research gap is about methodological review. So is there any minimum number of reviews which I can say confidently that I have referred these many reviews, and by this I'm saying that there is a methodological gap. Is there any basic numbers or something like that?
There is no minimum number. More you do read, better clarity the researcher will get in identifying a research gap. If you're able to identify a gap even with the 100 articles, it's well and good. Because if you assume it is a classical gap, you may not be able to get many articles in a new area. So even with the few articles which are available, it is possible for the researcher to identify the gap and proceed with the study.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. I have a
Yeah,
query.
good evening.
Thank you for the wonderful session, ma'am.
Thank you.
My query is like we are the commerce faculty where option or scope of doing research is more like finance, marketing, accounts, and taxation and all. According to you, which one gains much weightage, ma'am? Because I have done my thesis under marketing, and the people like wherever I go for interview, the people used to ask me, "You have done under marketing. What is there in marketing?" A kind of this attitude is there. Like I just want to know from you, like which one gains much importance. Could you clarify my doubts, ma'am?
Yeah, it is again a perception of people. If you look at a researcher point of view, it is easy for a researcher to collect data and to identify a topic if it is a marketing research. It's convenient. But if it is a finance, it might be, as you said, taxation and finance. You need to have an in-depth knowledge of it before you do a research in the finance area. But when we look at academics now, we are all going to move towards interdisciplinary and other aspects. So anyone can come and learn finance paper or a marketing paper. So whether it is a finance or a marketing, how a researcher has identified a new and very innovative in the research, it shows the level of knowledge you have gained. If any simple topic you have done in marketing, a researcher may not have gained much insight into marketing. In marketing also, a lot of things required to be probed. So we cannot say it's again a perception, because I remember even in our college, they used to tell why your students are doing only in marketing, why not in other areas. Marketing also you can do. There are a lot of sustainability goals relating to marketing are there. It can be analyzed. It will be a very relevant one. And it will definitely of use to many in the society. So it is not like that. It depends on, I told you, it depends upon the passion you have. If you like finance, you can do it. If you like marketing, you cannot do it in finance. You have to do only in marketing. I hope I've addressed your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah.
No, actually, some of the participants have posted some questions.
Okay.
So I'll read one by one, ma'am. So the question one is there any open source to identify research area problem to be addressed? It's a question asked by the participant. So is there any open source to identify research area or problem to be addressed?
Open source articles are there, no? It's all technology. We are internet world. We are all living with. Uh, Nothing is secret now. Every information is available online. I told you, Web of Science have a database. Science Direct has a database. For if you want to do in anything, World Bank database is there. Lot of sources are available. It's not a constraint now.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And the next question asked by the participant. It is essential to insert research gap in our thesis.
Sorry,
It is essential to implement the research gap in our research thesis.
Definitely.
The question asked by the participant.
Yes. It has to be there. Without identifying a gap, how do we frame the research topic and the objectives? Something new need to be studied, explored. It's a waste of time if you keep exploring and doing what has already been done.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question asked by the participant is how to find a topics in particular area of research.
My reading easiest way of doing is, I should not tell, but still I'm telling. If you're so lazy, you want to quickly find what is area of interest, just Google. Google gives an answer for everything. Google what is the recent trends in finance or recent trends in marketing, recent research topics. You will get some idea in the area of your interest. Then you can collect, do review on that and find out what is a research gap.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So that's all. So thank you very much, ma'am, to give the fruitful enlightenment session.
Once again, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me and also for the participant for the patient listening. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am, once again. Now I am inviting Mr. Niranjan of QTA to deliver the vote of thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed guests and participants, I extend my deepest gratitude on behalf of the Department of Commerce at SRM IST Faculty of Science and Humanities. As we conclude this enlightening event focused on qualitative and quantitative research methodologies, a heartfelt thank you to Dr. Florence John from Madras Christian College for her invaluable contributions. Her expertise in addressing the research gap has profoundly enriched our discussions, shaping the depth and quality of our exploration. I want to express a sincere appreciation to the organization committee, faculty members, and dedicated volunteers whose tireless efforts ensure the success of this event. To each attendee, your active participation and insightful contributions have made this gathering intellectually stimulating and engaging. As we depart, let us carry forward the wealth of insights garnered during this event. Together, may we push the boundaries of research methodologies. Thank you all for making this event an outstanding success. We eagerly look forward to future collaborations and continued scholarly pursuits. Thank you.
Thank you all once again. Can I take a leave?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our
thank you.
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dear participants, the feedback form is available in the chat box. You should fill the feedback form within 5 minutes itself. Okay. Once again, thank you for all to attend this section. Have a nice day.
Solomon sir, thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all the organized committee. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Solomon sir, you are send the link through from chat box or our WhatsApp group?
Yes, sir. Through chat box, sir. Through chat box. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay.
Yes.